OG, let me talk to you though, because I know you and I in the past were huge advocates of Jayson Tatum. I've kind of fallen off how strongly I once felt about him. I said with that idea, we kind of had this conversation after our last show. Do you feel slighted in a way by Jayson Tatum in the sense of this was supposed to be his coronation, his entrance into being one of the best players of this era? We kind of saw that with Giannis after he dropped the 50 ball. We saw it with Jokic after he had one of the best postseason runs we've ever seen by any player ever in NBA history. Jayson Tatum, in my opinion, wasn't the best player on his team in the playoff run, in the Eastern Conference Finals, in the NBA Finals. Do you feel slighted? Because there's part of me that I felt like Tatum, at a point in time, had the ceiling of being a top two, arguably at one point can be the best player in the world. But after this run, this was a great team. There's not taking anything away from the Boston Celtics, but when I break it down and talk about one player individually, I feel slighted by Tatum.
Right. I don't, and the reason why I don't, because one, I want to go back to what Dell was just talking about in terms of the teams. If I'm not mistaken, I think over the last 30 years, the Bulls, the 01 Lakers, and the Warriors
17?
are the only team.
17 probably.
Yeah, 17. The 17 Warriors are the only team to win the NBA championship and only have one loss on the road in the playoffs.
Warriors.
That's they're the only team to do that. And they also rival the 96-97 Bulls, who won 69 games. They're the only team that had the better net rating than the Boston Celtics. With that being said, I always thought that Jayson Tatum was a top 5 player in the game. I still stand on that to this day. I never thought that he could be the best player, but I thought that he'd be in the conversation. With that being said, he still had to do his job. Had he not done his job, the Boston Celtics don't win. If he doesn't give me that 30-12 game in Game 5 in the NBA Finals, if he doesn't give me 35-10, I think it was 30-10 games in the East Finals. Right. If he doesn't give me those, now sure, I can appreciate the idea that you're looking for the Joker game and you're looking for what Giannis did. I actually think that this season, because he was on a better unit where it was more talent, I feel like him sacrificing says so much about him as a player. Because don't forget, we're also talking about a team that lost KP. KP only played 57 games this year. It wasn't like he played that. It wasn't like he played the whole season. Jrue Holiday, he also missed, I think, 17, 18 games. So Jayson Tatum, he had to make up for all of that stuff. And let's please not forget, not only is he the only All-Pro they have, he's the only first-team All-Pro that they have. They don't have anybody else like that. So with that being said, I still stand on the logic. I think Jayson Tatum is a top 5 player in the game. He performed not up to what everybody thought he should perform to, but as a whole, even though he didn't shoot the basketball as well as some people might think that he could have shot the basketball, he did all the other stuff, and his game improved as the playoffs went on. And he was one of the main reasons why they won the NBA championship. And really quickly, Drew, to your point, Jaylen Brown did not have to see the coverages that Jayson Tatum had to see during that time. He's not seeing double teams. He's not getting in the paint and seeing triple teams. A lot of the stuff that he had to deal with was one-on-one. Well, if I'm one-on-one with a guy, it's really not that difficult, particularly if it's Luka standing in front of me. It's not that big of a deal at all. So with that being said, I'm also facilitating for Jaylen Brown. I'm facilitating when, if I'm not mistaken, Coach Mazzulla puts Jrue Holiday in the dunker spot. So now that's an adjustment that makes Jayson Tatum even better because he's going downhill, dropping it off to Jrue Holiday in the dunker spot, making him so much better as a unit. So the sacrifice that he did is such double talk to me because one minute I hear you got to sacrifice in order for your crew to win. But then if you're shooting too much and you get 30, well, you shoot too much and y'all losing. I don't understand the correlation. It doesn't really make much sense to me.
I agree with a lot of the points that you made. I think Jayson Tatum did have to sacrifice. I agree with that. But in the NBA Finals, he took the most shots of any player in the Finals. That was not sacrificing. He was just missing. Sure. And that jump shot of his has been going downhill since last postseason. So I think for me, before I enter Jayson Tatum, because really I think the conversation that matters is the top 3. The top 3, I think, is Jokic, Giannis, Luka. I think that's best in the world category. I think for Tatum to enter that, he needs to get his jump shot back. Because while he did take some sacrifices, he was shooting a lot. He was just missing. I do think that Jayson Tatum was the best player on the Celtics the entire postseason. I thought Jaylen Brown won Eastern Conference Finals MVP, and a Finals MVP because he wasn't held to the same expectation as Tatum.
I can't
If
agree
Tatum
with
was
that.
held to Jaylen Brown's expectations, you're giving the MVP to the guy who led the team in points, rebounds, and assists.
But Jaylen Brown was
didn't.
efficient.
Of
He was
course,
efficient,
but-
and as a defender, he was their best defender.
Listen,
in the finals, they were
I
close to the
think
same
it
efficiency.
depends.
But the efficiency to me in the finals gets thrown away when the series was over after game 3. And after game 3, everyone at this table, there's no way you can tell me otherwise that you didn't feel Jaylen Brown was the finals MVP. This was after a game where in the first half, Jayson Tatum was fucking awesome. He was amazing. That was probably my favorite performance out of JT. Until that second half starts, he can't buy a bucket. Now he knows, man, I don't have it. I got to give the ball to Jaylen Brown. That's to your point about sacrifice and also self-realization and honestly acknowledging, hey, I don't have it, but my guy does because I got a trustworthy number 2 in Jaylen Brown. But Jaylen Brown was clutch as sin that entire second half. So I think he had He had 8 points in the first half, finishes with over 30. His efficiency was 12 for 22. He was fantastic in that game 3. And again, we all felt the same way after game 3 when essentially the series was locked that Jaylen Brown was the finals MVP.
But here's the thing with that.
And that's when that efficiency was elite.
Liv. I didn't. I felt like it was close. I felt like whoever, considering how they was playing, not just Jayson Tatum, not just Jaylen Brown, not just what Drew Holiday did, even KP when he came in, I felt like whoever had the best game in the closeout game could very well be the finals MVP. I really felt like that.
With
Going
the
up
Finals
3-0, though,
MVP,
we know it's done.
Even when they did go up 3-0, right? Even when they did go up 3-0, I still felt like it wasn't like this. And to your point, you talking about Jaylen Brown, you're primarily talking about buckets. The fact that I got to do other stuff now because I don't have it going. He started facilitating. He got on the glass. He started to defend. He started to do all the stuff necessary, spacing to make sure that, we got enough spacing in order for us to get shots. He's getting downhill, collapsing the defense. Jaylen Brown wasn't doing that. Jaylen Brown was buckets, and I think he did a damn good job on Luka. I'll never argue that. I think he did a damn good job. But the fact that Jayson Tatum, who they demanded what they demanded from him, and for him to deliver, and the fact that he couldn't shoot it like he normally does, I still think that's a testament to him, which I want to ask you, Joe.
Okay.
Why, in terms of him not being able to make shots, why do you think that was?
It's probably because he was more so fatigued from playing defense. I can hear that argument. But then it also is something that is used against them or can be used against them because other stars that have less talented players on their team have to do all the things Tatum has to do, plus have to be exceptional and efficient on the other end, like Jokic did in his finals run, like Giannis did in his finals run. And I think that can be used as a knock against Tatum.
I think the shot diet is just awful.
I want to ask you guys
It's
a question
bad.
round table because in the NBA Finals, Jaylen Brown did an excellent job on Luka, one-on-one defense. We know that. But Jayson Tatum is the reason why the lob threat was taken away. A big component of their offense, a reason why the Celtics can cheat over and really just disrespect these shooters was because of how Tatum took away the center. I think that might be just as impactful as Jaylen Brown's one-on-one defense because it allowed Jaylen Brown to cheat over a little bit because he knows that Tatum can stop anything going to the rim. And I think we can't ignore that. In terms of their defensive play, they had two different responsibilities, but Jaylen Brown would have not been able to take away the center like Jayson Tatum did in that series.
But playing defense on Luka is much harder than that, in my
Al
opinion.
Horford did a better job. 9 for 28.
That's, come on.
That was cool.
Al did a great job.
Al did a great
does
job, but at the
Tillman,
same
man.
time,
Tillman was out
Game,
there.
game 3
different.
Tillman. Shout
It's
out to
super
him.
different. I think you obviously understand. Luka's going downhill. He's going to have shots near the bucket, and who's going to be right in front of him, especially with KP being banged up. It was going to be
Here's my counter to that. One-on-one defense is just you versus you.
But we also spoke about it. I apologize. We've spoken a lot. You haven't. I apologize. We've seen a lot of Luka just missing shots that he normally makes, especially in the finals. Shots that we normally see Luka make, he was coming up short.
That was
You
a
wanna talk
lot of
about
physicality.
fatigue?
That was a lot of
Correct.
Jaylen Brown off ball pressuring him, making him work through screens
true,
to get the
very
ball.
true.
It wasn't just he was missing shots. He was missing some shots that normally he would make, but a lot of that had to do with the way Jaylen Brown was guarding him off ball.
That right there. Say it one more time for the people in the cheap seats.
The way
that makes
Jaylen-
me nuts,
The
man.
way
when I hear
JB was
that.
guarding him off ball. I mean, you saw there was even that quote they had during the game saying like, "I'm gonna make it hell for Luka every time. If he doesn't take the ball up the court, I am on his ass."
But here's the thing. Even if you think that Jaylen Brown deserves Finals MVP, I think there's also a case for Tatum. Because I think between the Eastern Conference Finals MVP and the Finals MVP, it was a lot of splitting hairs.
Sure.
And Tatum was one of 6 players to win a championship and lead his team in points, rebounds, and assists. He did a lot for the Celtics on his way there. And I feel like if roles were reversed and that was Jaylen Brown with those stats, he would have won it. I will say, to Jaylen Brown's credit and to discredit Jayson Tatum here, in the clutch, the numbers were not close in the postseason.
Not at all.
Jayson Tatum was terrible in the clutch.
Jaylen Brown was
He shot below 30% in clutch situations, while Jaylen Brown shot above 50%. So when they needed a go-to bucket, Jaylen Brown was that guy.
That's what I was talking about game 3.
The championship as a whole for the Celtics, I don't think it should be made out of comparing players because it was an all-around team effort.
For sure.
And that's why I understand what you're saying, where what was missing from Tatum's playoff run was a Giannis or Jokic-like dominance to really cement himself in the best in the world conversation. But the good thing is that he's still young and the Celtics have a chance to do it again. And if Jayson Tatum is exceptional this upcoming playoffs next season and they win the championship, then he will truly get thrust into that conversation. But he has to perform too.
I think the shooting woes had a lot to do with what happened in 22. I think he was worried about that. I think he saw himself reverting back to that, and he was in his head like, I can't play as bad as I played in 22. And I think that bothered him in terms of his shooting. And then throughout the course of the playoffs, he kind of got out of his own way and got back to what he was doing. I watched him in the Indiana game. I think in overtime he had 10 points
he was
and
awesome.
3 rebounds in that game. Like 2 years ago in finals, he would have fell to pieces, right? So he progressively got better as time went on. I can appreciate the logic, Joe, of him in the clutch, but I think that was largely due to him not wanting to screw up as opposed to him just playing. I always think about the Matrix with Neo and Morpheus when they fighting, and Morpheus says to Neo, stop trying to hit me and just hit me. I feel like Jayson Tatum, initially, he was trying to shoot. He was trying to play instead of just playing. And I feel like it got better as time went on.
Funny part is, Tatum may not have to have a moment next year for them to win it again.
Agreed.
That's the funniest part about it. So it's like we could be waiting for that Giannis Joker moment, but he may never need it with this team. As standing right now, this team could literally walk through the East yet again next year with how good they are.
Does he just have to have a moment and win the finals for him to do it? Because he's had moments throughout his career in the playoffs.
For sure.
That's not
Definitely.
on the final stage.
You want to know what I compare it to? Again, when we had this conversation, this is what I brought up.
Well, has he had an all-time series yet?
All-time series, probably not to
That's
like
the thing.
Jokic's
that Bucks
standards.
it was
great.
amazing.
I don't know if it was
if it was-
all-time.
I don't know
Giannis
if
has
it
an
was
all-time
all-time.
series. The Joker has one.
All time.
Even Luka kind of has one,
that's
but he lost.
that's kind of tough to really.
It
he
is
had,
tough to
He had a
have.
great series. He had like an unbelievable series against the Bucks.
Yeah.
This is what I compare it to. With Golden State, when Kevin Durant joined Golden State, we already went in with the idea this was the champion. A 73-win team just got the second best player in the world. But we needed them to win the championship, but also what we needed was Kevin Durant to play at the number 2 in the world, arguably best in the world level. He did. He got crowned finals MVP over Steph Curry, who was just the unanimous MVP the year prior. You needed to see that level of dominance out of Kevin Durant. You did. And to a lot of people, that validated Kevin Durant. To a good amount of people also, that didn't move them because he joined Golden State. But why you kind of have to respect it, at least I say kind of because, again, I'm not the hugest Kevin Durant fan, but what I can at least respect is he went to Golden State, made one of the craziest, most shocking moves that we've ever seen, but also was dominant with an amazing team. Tatum's on an amazing team, but wasn't dominant. That's the difference to me.
It's just a tale of two worlds because Kevin Durant, when he went to Golden State, of course, he got a lot of shit for it. We all knew they were going to win the championship. It was set in stone. But he averaged 35.
He was
If
unbelievable.
you look at his performance in that series in terms of players in finals history, he owns one of the most efficient finals series in the history of the game. But it's still not validated because of the move he made to Golden State.
Correct.
So with Jayson Tatum, I think really the simple thing for him is he just has to play at that superstar level next playoffs. And I mean like in the finals, averaging 30, given what he gives you, but shooting well. And then I think it'll validate him. But Tatum could also be that player that just never has that dominant run, but his accolades throughout his career stack up to the point that it will match up a lot of all-time great players.
And we're talking about his jump shot. How many times do we see him hit the backboard? You know what I mean? It's not short. It's not like you don't have your legs on.
He's been in the weight room too much, man.
He's straight up shooting it way too strong.
Don't stop shooting that shot.
And it's not even close.
Yeah,
doesn't work.
Trust me. I hope I could get a number one day on just what his sidestep, less than 3 seconds on the shot clock percentages, because they can't be hard than like
37% in the regular season from three, if I'm not mistaken.
In 2024, January 1st to the end of the regular season, he was the best pull-up three-point shooter in the NBA.
I don't know what happened from the end of the regular season to the. That really is what it can come down to.
This man's in the spotlight every single year, and more often than not, he shows up.
But you know what I'm saying, OG? Like, I'm trying to keep it consistent because, again, I respect
sometimes
that.
Sometimes don't show up.
It's just so tough to
just gone.
But I think to evaluate. What I've said this before. I think if you are a Celtics fan, if you are a Tatum fan, if you're a Tatum defender, his weakness is easily, I don't want to say easily, but feels more fixable than other superstars' weaknesses. Like, if his jump shot can start to fall like it did basically all regular season, like it has basically his entire career. He was at 29% on jump shots this playoff run. I'm not talking about him getting to 65% true shooting. We're just talking about him getting to league average or Jayson Tatum standard. Yep. If he's able to get back to that, you're going to see him have 40-point games consistently. You're going to see him average 30, 35 for a series, and you know he's going to give you 11 rebounds and 7-8 assists. So when we talk about other stars who have other deficiencies, whether it's playmaking, defense, whatever, it feels like that's a bit of a gap that they have to get to. For Tatum, it's just, can we just get back to our regular season norm for jump shooting?
Which is tricky too, because we've seen him do that. So it's not like it's asking too much, right? We've seen him do that. He actually doubled his post production this season before last season, right? He plays double the time in the post. He actually played really good in the mid range during the regular season, and it just went the other way. And Riv, I'm telling you, it went the other way because I felt like in the 2022 finals, that's what came back to him. And I can't, and not only can I not play like that, I can't play like that again, period. So I'm basically boxing myself in instead of I'm not playing like that.
No, he can never play like that ever.
I'm going to kick all of you guys' ass. There's nothing that you guys are going to be able to do against me. I think he was worried more about not playing that way instead of just going out and just kicking everybody's ass, because it's obvious that the skill set is there. It's obvious that all the tools are there. We saw him in the regular season. We saw him in the playoffs. We saw him going to Milwaukee in an elimination game and put 46 on them, right? We saw him in game 7, put 51 on Philadelphia. And put 16 on them in the fourth quarter. If he doesn't do that, they're out.
This is all a mental thing.
They're out.
Yeah. They're
OUT out. But the thing I'm really concerned with, though, Joe, is if he gets busy in these playoffs and they lose, like he's averaging 35 a game and they get bounced in the semifinals, how are we talking about Jayson Tatum?
I think if they lose,
same way you spoke about him in 22.
No, the discourse is terrible. That's why I think it's better that the Celtics won and he just played not subpar, but below his standards than them losing. Yeah. And that's where I feel like I overvalued Tatum's performance too much in the postseason, because all season long I was fading Boston from winning the championship. And a big reason for that was because I thought Tatum underperforming in the playoffs would matter more to wins and losses. But we seen a stat. They were 6-0 when Tatum shoots below 40%. It's insane. He had the team to make up for the lack of efficiency that he had.
You don't hear this and feel slighted. I was a Jayson Tatum stan.
I still am. I ain't gonna lie. I'm on a Jayson Tatum train. He's my guy, 100%.
It's just hard to sit with. He's my guy. This team was just so overwhelmingly better.
It's a weird thing to hear. Like you don't hear it too. You don't hear it too much. Like.
Usually when you're the best player, if your best player plays bad,
Steph or LeBron or like Kawhi play bad in a playoff game, 8 times out of 10 are probably losing the game.